Hello everyone, welcome to my channel, and today I will inform you about the final stage that I promised you. In Facebook, the interview I conducted is referred to as Whiteboard Challenge. This is the third part of the Facebook interview saga. If you haven't seen the previous parts yet, I recommend you to watch them. I will leave links somewhere here on the video. And today I'm going to tell you about a really interesting stage called the Whiteboard Challenge. This is an intriguing stage, as I have never come across it previously. Typically in our country and in Europe, in Germany, they consistently provided a test assignment. In fact, this is something similar to a test assignment that designers are given at home. But it is limited, firstly, by time. You are given 1 hour, and secondly, it all happens in front of the interviewer. If given a test task, you should spend 8 hours on it as stated, but you have the flexibility to work for a shorter duration based on your own determination. Here it occurs in real time with an interviewer in front of his eyes. He guides you, and now I will demonstrate to you what all this is for. In general, this whiteboard challenge essentially determines your thinking style, your problem-solving approach, your ability to find solutions, and your overall work style, including your interaction with the interviewer, whether you collaborate with them or work independently. And all of these criteria are assessed during this whiteboard challenge. In general, when thinking about the whiteboard challenge, it is not just about the quantity of unique and brilliant ideas you can come up with for a problem, but rather about how beautifully you can draw and depict these screens within the given squares on the whiteboard. This is not about this. This is about how quickly you can demonstrate and showcase how you approach problem solving, what your thought process is, how you interact with your interviewer, how you interact with the team, what ideas you have in the process. Maybe you have some ideas outside your competence, for example, what research you would like to conduct here, and any other insights you can provide. And it will be easier for you to understand how to pass the whiteboard challenge, I think, if you know the criteria by which your interviewer evaluates you. I believe these criteria will differ among companies and are typically discussed with you at the start of the interview. Your HR department has the authority to inform you to pay special attention that the interviewer will evaluate you based on these criteria. And now we will direct our attention to them. For instance, this could be a problem definition, which means that you are attempting to understand what type of problem it is when you come across a substantial problem. Maybe your interviewer will intentionally provide you with an extremely broad problem, such as how to eradicate homelessness in San Francisco, and they will not inform you whether it should be an application or something different. They simply want to understand what your interviewer is referring to. So you need to understand what the problem is, you need to understand what questions to ask in order to narrow down this problem within the scope of your competence. Once you have identified the problem, you need to generate ideas, that is, how quickly and efficiently you can come up with a multitude of diverse and innovative ideas, how you can connect them with the problem at hand, what additional functionality you can offer to your user, for example, in order to ensure that he specifically chooses to utilize your product over others in the market. He can also evaluate your understanding of interaction design, specifically your knowledge of the placement of filters and the location of the regular menu within the application. These are important standards that you should be familiar with when designing your product. Do you initiate the process with some onboarding, or do you immediately introduce the user to your interface? So you should show all of this on the whiteboard challenge. And of course, as I already mentioned, this is a collaboration. To what extent can you ask questions? To what extent can you express your point of view? And to what extent can you conduct your own thought design process? So all of this will be evaluated. So if you silently mumble to yourself and say nothing out loud, the interviewers, for example, won't even be able to determine your thought process and how well you can communicate within the company. Perhaps you know how to joke there, pick the right jokes, the right moment, and thus defuse the situation. So all of this will be very interesting to evaluate during this whiteboard challenge. And the interviewer during your whiteboard challenge will determine in general some signs that will help him determine what kind of design thinking process you have. That is the process of thinking specifically about design, the process. To give an example, you ask the right questions that help you clarify the purpose of this task and gain a clear understanding of what needs to be accomplished. Do you inquire about inquiries, or do you promptly leap to a solution? Do you concentrate on users and their context, or do you disregard it? You inquire with the correct questions and make a number of assumptions, logical assumptions within the framework of your designated task at hand. You go beyond your UI visuals. You think through the complete scenario of interacting with the product. You present this script to your interviewer. You comprehend certain fundamental interface patterns and principles, and you have a few ideas in your mind that you can discuss during the interview. In other words, if you draw some nonsense at all, it will be clear that you don't even know the basic principles of design. During the whiteboard challenge, you mention your strengths in design and weaknesses in design. For example, you suggest testing some weaknesses in design because you don't understand how it will solve the problem for the user. And in the event that you have already covered all of the above-mentioned questions during your whiteboard challenge, the interviewer will then seek out supplementary questions, additional inquiries that they can derive from you. For instance, do you possess any concepts that lie beyond the confines of this assignment, that is, some genuinely distinctive ones, as they state, for instance, at Google, beyond the conventional approach, that is, you possess a box, but we contemplate beyond the limitations of this box. Or maybe you have some advice on how to improve user research, user testing, or how to better execute, that is, how do you suggest or propose to better implement this construction of this application? Maybe you have some thoughts. Perhaps you already technically know potential technical problems that may arise in the production of this product. That is, your seniority or your experience already allows you to determine that here, well, on such a technology, it will take a lot of human resources. Does the company have such resources within this task or not? So all of this, as you can determine, will determine whether you are a good designer or not. So at this moment, I wanted to switch to discussing the common mistakes that people often make during a whiteboard challenge. Firstly, since this whiteboard challenge is unrelated to the coronavirus offline on the whiteboard, you'll be doing it in the company on the whiteboard. Now, during the coronavirus, you just do it on a piece of paper and then show it to the camera here. And I can demonstrate to you what it appears like for me. It appeared. So it was simply a dreadful experience because I believe the interviewer did not even perceive what I was writing because our Zoom through which we communicated was completely changing, distorting pixels, and I think the interviewer didn't even see, he saw a pixelated picture of mine, specifically what I was writing on paper. However, the most crucial recommendation in both digital and offline environments is to avoid being careless. So if you write like a chicken with small letters and the interviewer can't see anything, it's a minus for you. What is the purpose of writing on the board? To demonstrate to the interviewer the goals you cover. You write down the response, the intended users of this product, and you jot down the answer. Do not cease speaking. Therefore, I conducted a couple of practice interviews prior to my whiteboard challenge. Mock-up interview is how I propose it during my mentoring. Pass a trial interview with me. I also did a trial interview with designers with Google and Facebook. And then I was told, I had a thought that if I was given some task, I need to ask the interviewer for a little, 5 minutes to think, and then start working on the task. And everyone told me that I shouldn't do it at all, that it would be some kind of red flag, that I can't do it on the go. They said that, on the contrary, one should not stop talking. You need to talk, ask questions, clarify something. If there are any misunderstandings in the task, you must definitely ask. Ask for a picture. If you don't understand what is being talked about at all, you can ask for a picture for the interviewer to show what product is meant in general. You must constantly speak orally and demonstrate your thought process, ensuring that he can observe your thoughts rather than assuming you are thinking silently. Also, do not forget that you do not need to simply fill the airwaves like a parrot and talk incessantly. Of course, it depends on the interviewer. I interview different people. Someone, for example, prefers, and if I ask questions, tried to collaborate, they would say, "What do you think?" And as I understood, they don't want to participate in the whiteboard challenge at all, and I need to conduct it myself. And they will sit silently. Then I still think, well, I talk to other designers. This is the wrong perspective in general. It is imperative that you collaborate. You must communicate with each other, talk, discuss, and clarify any assumptions that arise. And this is a type of thought process, specifically design thinking. So if you tend to speak excessively, make an effort to pause and inquire with the interviewer whether everything you are currently saying is coherent or if it lacks coherence. What does your interviewer think? Do we need to continue further? How about if you take this idea from all this volume of ideas that you came up with in order to narrow down the volume and perform the task within the framework of this whiteboard challenge? The next mistake, I believe, there is no need to be suspicious that if the interviewer asks you some questions, why did you do it like this? And what do you think? Why did you do it like this? The interviewer asks these questions not to fail you, not to write that you are not a very good designer and you have not a very good solution. And he's just trying to clarify the situation and understand if he understood you correctly or not. This is not to find fault with you. In general, from what I have read, there is a book on how to negotiate a better salary for yourself and various articles from managers and HR managers. They are all in favor of it. They solely support you and they desire for you to successfully complete this interview in a prompt and highly positive manner so that they can resolve this matter, occupy this position, and it will be advantageous for them. So they are all in favor of it if you become a superstar and can dismantle all these interviews and can manage everything. No one's trying to put you down. They just want to grasp your thought process during whiteboard challenges or behavioral questions in general. I also had the chance to witness the mistakes that require some main focus and demand significant attention from. For example, at first, when I was rehearsing the whiteboard challenge by myself at home, I had such a problem that I wanted to show as many ideas as possible, and I was scattered on these ideas. That is, I wanted to show both this and that, and in general, I didn't have a main focus. When there is no focus, time is running out, you haven't drawn your interface in any way. This is bad. You need to navigate the situation. You need to say, here I have such ideas, let's do it. Narrow down these ideas and take only one as an example so that I can show you in the task how it is solved. Let us continue discussing the approach. The approach consists of a 5-step process in Whiteboard Design Challenge. So it's no secret that every designer in every team has different processes. You have various flows that you follow. You have certain user research. I am not aware, you do not possess any of them as far as I know. Some companies believe that users don't matter at all. Business rules the process. So what needs to be demonstrated, how it should be demonstrated, what specific recommendations can I provide regarding the whiteboard challenge? First of all, ask leading questions. This is a must-have. It is mandatory. They deliberately give such tasks that are not clear at all from the beginning. For example, develop a system to help people find their luggage faster at the airport. It is unclear what kind of luggage, what kind of people, which airport is international, not international, some local, small local. So these questions need to be asked. They deliberately give some broad problem to understand whether you are trying to understand it or you are just making assumptions and not trying to get to the truth. Definitely the following advice: inquire about users and context. Moving forward, make sure to write down the main steps that the user takes. For instance, you are making an application for a toy car and you're showing right now that a box came from Amazon, the user opened the box, the user installed the application. So you need to write on the board these main steps that the user will take inside your flow, which are very important. Following that, you absolutely need to sketch out the vital screens of your product in order to proceed. For example, if you have the same car, what is the critical screen? So you have to draw how to control this car. or some onboarding, you also have to solve it with the interviewer. And in the end, you usually have to sum up what you got. So you will either conduct your interviewer again on this whole path that your user takes. Who is this user? Explain it again. Talk about it. Explain the story he is involved in. Maybe think about an alternative. Maybe you have some alternative solution. You have time. You can quickly draw and propose A/B testing. So these 5 steps that you should mention during your whiteboard challenge. Next, let's go through a specific whiteboard challenge exercise. To be more precise, I suggest in the book Solving Product Design Problems, he explains design challenges and provides insights for solving them effectively. So it turns out this book is about how to solve this whiteboard challenge. And I went through this book, and for myself I made such a structure, and in it I showed everything. To start, you are provided with a task. For instance, let's assume you are given the task of creating an automated cash dispenser using the instructions in this book, such as an ATM machine. To begin with, the foremost advice is to have a clear understanding of your goal, that is, comprehending the problem and the reasons behind the need for this task, specifically, the purpose of having this automated teller machine, ATM, and the objectives it will serve in fulfilling. Well, as an illustration, your company, it already has ATMs, but for instance, it does not have ATMs that teenagers use, for example, in their neighborhood. And they want, for example, to make specifically an ATM or an interface for teenagers so that they are more interested in this financial topic and use ATMs, for example. At this point, inquire specifically, as I already stated, for additional details. Details about what the interviewer can give you. For example, if this interviewer is prepared, he will tell you some interesting details. For example, this is an ATM for teenagers from low-income families, but the bank there has a global goal. I'm just making it up now as an interviewer. He has a global goal to make financially literate youth. Deliver financial literacy education to young individuals. That is the reason they are developing an interface for this ATM in collaboration with a company that promotes financial literacy. Their objective is to enhance their customer base and expand the customer base of their bank by focusing on teenagers who will eventually become adults. Well, for example, oh, how I rapped, and you keep asking for more details. For example, what is your deadline? What is your deadline? As an illustration, the interviewer explicitly states that I have absolutely no deadline to adhere to. You can do it for a year. Can you inquire if the automated teller machine is clear at this location? But you can inquire, for instance, at present there is a pandemic. Do you truly desire an automated teller machine? Maybe all teenagers have a mobile phone in that location. Perhaps you want to change the device and, for example, he places an order using a mobile phone and only takes money from the ATM. Somehow synchronized. That is, you make some assumption. That is, a guess, and say whether you need to change the device, or maybe the interviewer initially says that there is no device at all. He does not know. Assume what device you should use, and you have to make the decision for yourself. Then you inquire about what limitations, that is, constraints, exist in English. Restrictions are things such as, for instance, not having enough money, not having sufficient engineers. He will say, do not use virtual reality technology, do not use augmented reality technology. Augmented reality, it can be any type of technology. A large number of individuals I came across in my profession, they typically expressed, I have no restrictions, no boundaries, do whatever you desire. Here you can inquire once more about the pain points, that is, the points of pain that users have, well, why this product did not succeed. Was there a product for teenagers previously? Yes, within the framework of our ATM. Was there a product prior to this? If there were, what were the challenges faced by these teenagers? Why didn't they utilize this ATM or this app? And what are the objectives in general? The objective of the company is to establish this company. As mentioned, the objective, for example, is that these financially knowledgeable young individuals will grow into adults who will demonstrate loyalty to this bank. Next, we need to establish the target audience, the individuals who utilize your product. Since we already had such a hint in our ATM from the very beginning, we already have teenagers. Teenagers and young adults should already delve into the world of teenagers. However, there are tasks in which there are no users. For instance, you might be informed that you are designing the user interface for toy cars, and you don't know what kind of cars are meant, the speech is going. Or are these cars for adults, that are there playing professional, expensive cars? Or are these small cars that crawl for babies? Or is it for teenagers who are trying to compete with each other in coolness and show off their style and impress their peers? So you must continuously inquire about the user's identity, because the choice you can provide is dependent on the user. Also, what business goals do companies pursue? Naturally, if you have the opportunity, ask for age, social class, if it makes sense. For example, in our current example about ATMs, the social class, these are people who have financial problems there, that they are not very financially savvy. This is the social class. What possibly are there any behavioral traits, characteristics, or qualities of this user? For instance, if these are elderly individuals, they possess behavioral traits such as poor eyesight and the need to examine things up close. To accommodate them, you may have to increase the font size. If this is a child, he cannot press a single button on this remote control for a toy car. He needs some kind of automatic button that does it itself, for example, holds the start button. So you clarify all this specifically and define the audience in this stage, who your user is. Next, you can come up with what common use cases you have, what usage options you have for this product. For instance, as mentioned, in this scenario, an individual, a young person, has the ability to utilize this automated teller machine simply by visiting the bank. He can do it in advance on the website, e.g. at home from a computer, or he can do it at home from a mobile app. Here are such different use cases. For example, I saw that there is such a thing. They asked to create an application for ordering food at the airport for people, travelers. There can also be various use cases, usage scenarios. Well, for example, that a person came alone and he eats alone. Or a person came with a company for the whole family. That is, these are different user use cases and they can involve different solutions. And you must document all of these use cases. For instance, what advantage does your business, your product provide to your users? What sets your product apart from your competitor's product? What unique value proposition can you offer, like the cherry on top that your competitors do not have in their offerings? So, what opportunities can you provide? That is, what possibilities can you open up for the user thanks to your product? So, the next step that we are trying to clarify in the process of our whiteboard challenge. Here we discuss the audience. Who are our users? Now we need to explain or find out what context of use this product is for. Well, for instance, what is your perspective on the car? Yes, in terms of the control of the car. For example, you know that these teenagers can use the machine at home when there is good lighting, and they can use it outside where, for example, in the dark, at dusk, and the machine can get lost there. Well, then you give there, if you use it at night, maybe there should be a different interface, I don't know, a dark interface to avoid eye strain. Or perhaps there should be some sort of flashlight to see something on the machine. So you have all this. Context provides you with some information. Or, for instance, what are you working on for the smart log assignment for your residents? And you are aware that the situation could be, for example, well, I do not know. Naturally, you do not have to, but all of a sudden it is raining over there. In snow, the person there has hands busy with an umbrella, cannot open the smart lock. How will this smart lock scan hands, for example, if it needs to pass a fingerprint scan? So this context will provide you with what information, that is, when this product is used in the morning, at night, during the day, in the evening, and where it is used. If it is outside, it could be rain, it could be snow, it could be a hurricane or something else. This is everything you inquire from your interviewer and thus ascertain the requirements of your user. Next, you perform and demonstrate the primary steps within your product usage, which are the main steps or the task flow. So you define Firstly, let's go through that. You can have different ideas. For instance, the idea that you should have such and such a controller, or you also have such and such an idea, just to name a few examples. You can prioritize both impact and effort, make metrics, and do what if you have impact. That is a significant impact on this product, but at the same time little effort. Then this is a necessary feature that should be considered for implementation. If it takes a lot of effort and has little impact on the product, then this feature is not necessary. And how do you sort this within this metric? After you have decided which idea you will be generating, next you demonstrate the solution, that is, how you resolve this problem. So you can demonstrate the total amount of time I spent watching. Individuals at that location have the ability to create a user journey. I do not have any time for this whatsoever. At this specific stage, I am simply displaying some basic screens of my product for demonstration purposes. So I sketch, here are the primary screens that this automobile or automated teller machine can have. The car can have a main screen, how to operate this car, right? After you have sketched it, verbally explain what this screen is, what task it solves, you sketch it all, discuss it with your interviewer. The end of your whiteboard challenge is coming, and usually there are already various options here. As an illustration, an individual mentions that you need to alter success. That is, the way you will gauge whether your product has generated a positive metric for you. Someone says that you yourself should determine, you yourself should propose what kind of metric I would measure like this. Well, for example, in an ATM, the more users come, the better. Sarafan radio is playing. In the car, for instance, children play with the car for a prolonged period, which also attracts a larger number of users. Also a good metric. Next, you can propose some alternatives. For instance, if you have followed this use case, maybe you have another use case in mind and you would like to go through it in a different way. Or, for example, you had some issue or misunderstanding in the interface, and you could alternatively create another interface similar to the initial one but different in some manner, and you would propose testing to determine which interface is more effective. Could you discuss what you would do differently if you had another opportunity to tackle this whiteboard challenge once more? Alternatively, you can discuss the potential emergence of other questions or user cases during the development of the product and address these supplementary aspects in your discussion. You can think about how you would scale this product. Well, for example, they can ask, yes, this is, well, in a restaurant, for example, if one person came to you and if a whole football team comes to you, how will they place an order? How will you handle it individually or together? How to scale this solution. So you can have various methods to complete this whiteboard challenge, but naturally it is preferable to conclude it in a positive manner on a positive and strong note, indicating that you possess strong design skills. That is, all of the points that I have just explained to you. I hope this video was helpful to you. If you are planning to obtain a job somewhere in the United States, Whiteboard Challenge is extensively utilized in numerous companies where I attempted to apply for new positions. This Whiteboard Challenge is a favorite, preferred method of Americans to determine your product thinking. Thank you so much for staying on my channel. If you enjoy the video, please hit the like button and the notification bell. If you wish to support my channel, kindly consider being donors. I will provide a link in the comments section where you can make a one-time donation to my channel. If you desire me to be your mentor, there is additionally a link in the comments below the video where I demonstrate the mentoring packages that I offer. Thank you all very much. Bye-bye.